if you have a vacation or you want to pay cash for a car, or you have something that goes wrong, maybe you have to replace an appliance or a car repair, all this is going to happen to you at any age in life, but it seems like the young are perpetually caught off guard. Hey folks, I'm Colin Richards, and I'm excited to be talking to you today on the subject of what I wish I knew when I was 30. And that is a big subject because I missed out on a lot, okay? But I'm grateful that as I advised in our previous segment on listening to mom and dad, that I did seek out the counsel of my parents-in-law in the area of finance. But there's so much more that we can learn if we'll take the time and study it out. And I want to shortcut that process for you in a series of episodes that's going to address looking at finance from the point of view of somebody in their 20s or 30s. Now, I'm giving you advice that you can put in place no matter where you are in life. The hope is that at 50, 60, you've already taken these steps. But you know what? A lot of folks that I talk to actually haven't. And so I want to start on the foundational level. And here's the topic of this episode. What are the foundational steps I can take in the area of personal finance? What are my foundational steps, okay? We're going to make a few assumptions. We're going to make sure that whether you're single or married, that you have a job, okay? So that's going to be a key financial step, and that you have housing and so forth, okay? But perhaps on a future episode, we'll talk about renting versus owning and so forth. But I'm going to focus in on this episode on what you should do with the paycheck that's coming in each month. You know, when I graduated from college, I was pretty ignorant about this, okay? So I'm just going to be candid about my mistakes as well as maybe some of the things we've done right. And I just took what little savings I had. And by the way, most students don't graduate from graduate school with a whole lot of money in their pocket. But I was grateful to be debt-free, which is probably a topic for another episode. It can be done. And I was grateful to be stepping out with a little bit of money. And so I put it in the hands of some local guy that I looked up. I don't remember how I got his name. And he stuck me in a couple of mutual funds. Okay. And I didn't really understand the principles that I'm going to talk to you about today. And I paid the price later on because that was way back in 1993. And things went great for a while, but not always so great. And I learned, first of all, that we need to understand the principles of three kinds of money. Three kinds of money. And I have other videos where I actually teach on this, but I'm going to touch on this in this episode as a review for some of you and as sound teaching for those of you who are getting going on this. So first of all, what's the first kind of money that you should have? Well, emergency money or short-term money. When we diagram this out for our clients, we put this in green. So you could call it green money. Of course, all money in the U.S. is green, but the idea being that this money has a special purpose, okay? And that brings up an important principle. And I want you to write this down, or if you're driving, I want you to go back and listen to this as a podcast and write this down, because we're on podcast, we're on YouTube. And here's what I want you to do. The purpose of money should dictate where you put it. The purpose of the money tells us where it needs to go, right? I didn't make that up. Somebody else taught me that, and somebody else taught them that. This is foundational truth, is don't put all your money in the same place if it serves different purposes. You say, well, I'm a little confused, Colin. I thought I'd just dump everything in my IRA. Well, let me talk about this emergency or short-term money. All of us were taught as kids to have a little piggy bank, right? And to set aside money. And then maybe we could take it down and buy some candy or buy a new toy or save up for big things like a bicycle or down the road a car, college education. But in every case, if the need is short-term, we're going to recommend that you save a certain way. You save a certain way. Protect the principal and keep it liquid. Protect the principal and keep it liquid. And what you're going to do is you're going to always have a compromise on one area of investing. There's three: safety, liquidity, and then, of course, growth. Safety, liquidity, growth. Well, what we want you to do on this first kind of money, we call it emergency or short-term money, is focus on the first two: safety and liquidity. Safety and liquidity. Well, what does that sound like? That sounds like a checking account, a savings account, money market. You say, well, what about a 1-year CD? That doesn't count, okay? That's a little bit longer term in focus. The idea being here, if you have a vacation or you want to pay cash for a car, or you have something that goes wrong, maybe you have to replace an appliance or a car repair, all this is going to happen to you at any age in life, but it seems like the young are perpetually caught off guard. And that's where credit card debt becomes a horrible shackle around your legs. Okay, you want to avoid credit card debt at all cost. If you are not able to pay off credit at the end of every month before you're charged interest, then don't use it. Now, most people know how to do this. They just set it up in your bank so that you pay off the full balance in full every month. It's automated. But for some of you, if that's not possible, I recommend you get away from credit and just use debit cards for your account, checks, and cash, and of course, online banking. And so this first account really is bank-based. It's bank money, emergency money, short-term money, bank money, because it's safe and it's liquid. Once we get that in place, and how do we know, by the way, that that's in place? Well, we recommend 3 to 6 months of liquid cash available to you. Yes, we know you're going to compromise on growth. It's not going to get all that much growth. But you know what? The purpose of money dictates where we put it, and we want this money to be completely free and liquid so you can use it for the needs that come up. And that way, you don't put yourself in a position to have to go into debt, to tap into credit cards or home equity or something worse, heaven forbid. And then once we do that, we're going to move to the next kind of money. We call that a growing reserve, a growing reserve. Well, it's obvious what this is, right? It's a reserve, so it's got to be liquid, and it's growing. So guess what? Of the three, safety, liquidity, and growth, we pick the second two, liquidity and growth. You say, oh, Colin, but I don't like risk. Well, this is where we take a little bit of risk, but we're going to teach you how to manage that risk so that it's not unlimited risk, so that it doesn't devastate or bankrupt you or wipe you out when the market declines. And there are great principles of that. And we're going to get to those in the future. But for right now, I'm going to say hold off on doing that until you first have your reserve. And what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to explain to you in our next segment on preparing for financial independence what kinds of investments you want to choose for the emergency as well as for your growing reserve. And then finally, we need absolutely protected money. We need money that no matter what the markets do, no matter which direction they go, no matter how the winds are blowing, is rock solid protected. You say, well, that sounds like a bank, Colin. Well, banks are protected, yes, but what I'm talking about is money that can be protected and grow at the same time. You're like, I've never heard of that. Yeah, you probably won't find it in your in your banks. You probably won't find that in your 401ks. So we've got to go elsewhere. We're going to have to get a little bit more sophisticated, and we're going to have to start working on a financial plan to get access to those kinds of tools. You see, those kinds of tools aren't going to be available down at your broker and so forth. Brokers serve a great job, right? A great purpose. They get us access to financial tools, like a real estate broker will get us access to a home. But that is different from a planner. And at Lord & Richards, what we're doing is we're helping people young and old, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, okay? Every generation become financially independent. And there are foundational principles for every generation. And the good news is that we have a multi-generational team that comes together to help you. We actually employ a full team for you to help you achieve financial independence. If you're at the stage where, hey, Colin, I've actually got my my emergency or short-term money, and we've got about 3 to 6 months of our expenses minimum, then you're in a good place, okay? And you're ready to begin the next step, which starts to build those other kinds of money. I would love to talk to you about what to do with that, how to invest it, and how to make it part of a financial independence plan. It just starts with a simple phone call.